Welcome back, Bookworms. This is Mrs. K. I'm glad you could join me. Did you know that President's Day has been around since 1796, when it began as a celebration of George Washington's birthday, and that it later included Abraham Lincoln and all the other presidents too? Let's enjoy the magic of reading as we read together a Library of Holidays book, President's Day, written by Amy Margaret, and learn more about this special holiday that honors all U.S. presidents. Oh, look, Bookworms, here's a table of contents that lists the topics and the page numbers. You find this in a nonfiction book, or a book with a lot of facts. President's Day. President's Day is a day to celebrate the lives of past U.S. presidents, especially George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. It is observed on the third Monday in February. This day was picked because it falls in between the two men's birthdays. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, and Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809. President's Day celebrates democracy and the independence for which this country fought. There's President Lincoln, and there's President Washington. The history of President's Day. President's Day was started on February 22, 1796, to celebrate George Washington's birthday. He was America's first president. On February 12, 1866, many states began celebrating President Abraham Lincoln's birthday. Lincoln had been shot and killed in April 1865. In 1971, President Richard Nixon made the two celebrations one. The third Monday in February would be President's Day. Nixon said this day would honor all past presidents. There's President Lincoln again, President Washington, and there's President Nixon. George Washington. George Washington grew up in Virginia. He did not go to college. Instead, he became a soldier in the Virginia militia. In 1775, Washington led the colonial soldiers in the Revolutionary War. In 1783, America won its independence from Britain. Washington was ready to go home. Instead, the Continental Congress voted for him to become the first U.S. president. He served 2 four-year terms. In 1799, he died. He was buried at his home called Mount Vernon. The Washington Monument. The Washington Monument was built to honor the father of his country, George Washington. It is located in the capital city of the United States, Washington, D.C. The Washington Monument is the tallest building in the area. It is more than 555 feet tall, 169.2 meters. Building of the monument began in 1848. Work stopped in 1858 because there wasn't enough money. In 1878, work continued. The monument was opened to the public in 1888. And Mrs. K has been up in here. I've actually gone all the way up and been looking out those little windows there. There are 2 on each side, on the 4 sides. And it's a beautiful view. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was America's 16th president. He often was called Honest Abe. He helped end slavery in the United States. Lincoln and people in the North felt slavery was wrong and should end. The people in the South felt each state should decide for itself. There were other issues, too. The Civil War began in 1861. Lincoln was shot just before the war ended in April 1865. Unfortunately, he didn't live to see the country brought together again. If you look at this picture, you can see Mr. Lincoln. He's the tallest one, and he's also wearing a very tall hat. They call that a stovetop hat. The Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial also is located in Washington, D.C. and faces the Washington Monument. Building of the memorial began in 1914 and finished in 1922. The memorial is a large colonnade with 36 columns. The columns stand for the 36 states that made up the United States in Lincoln's time. Each column is 44 feet, 13.4 meters high. Inside the memorial is a large statue of Abraham Lincoln. On either side of the statue are two important speeches that Lincoln gave. It is phenomenal to see this, boys and girls. He is so tall and majestic. It's absolutely beautiful, and you can see how big he is compared to that person there. The work of a U.S. president. There have been many U.S. presidents since George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. Part of the president's job has always been to make sure that the laws of the United States are obeyed. The Constitution is a document containing the rules that the government and the people must follow. The president works closely with the government's judicial and legislative branches to make sure the country runs smoothly. These branches help to make sure the president does a good job. Great American presidents. Every president tries to make the United States a better place to live. Some presidents' accomplishments stand out from others, though. The third U.S. president was Thomas Jefferson. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. He also founded the U.S. Patent Office and was an inventor himself. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the 32nd president. He served almost 4 full terms. He helped the country get through the Great Depression and World War II. This is President Jefferson. This is President Roosevelt. Celebrating President's Day. President's Day can be celebrated in many ways. You can visit the Washington Monument and Lincoln Memorial. You also can go to the yearly wreath-laying ceremony at Washington's grave. He is buried at Mount Vernon, Virginia. You also may visit one of the 13 presidential libraries in the country. You can see items the presidents used at home and work. You also can remember Washington and Lincoln by having a party in their honor. This is Mount Vernon, and Mrs. K has been there as well, and it is absolutely beautiful. Great flowers, beautiful gardens, and lots of old antiques in the house.
If you enjoyed this story, please check it out at your local library or buy a copy from your favorite bookstore.